I'd like to introduce my first Autodesk App Store app. I'm calling it the Rational Method, and it's a rational way to perform rational method calculations. Um, so right here I have a typical subdivision layout, and I'm gonna show y'all how this works. I've got some buttons up here, but I've loaded the add-in, and I'm going to start analyzing the impervious cover. So first I've outlined the outer boundary of my impervious cover. So I'm just going to go ahead and isolate this layer. And what I'm going to do is say define impervious. And it's going to prompt me to select close polylines. And what that just did was added a property set to this polyline in the extended data tab. And it's already preset to be at road exterior, so this is my exterior line of the road, and then what I have here is interior blocks. So I'm just going to set those to interior, and then I have my road impervious cover set up. So I'm going to unisolate that. Then for my lot impervious, I'm going to select the outer boundaries of my lot, which I have already traced. Let me see here. There we go. And then for the internal blocks, I can just use the right-of-way line. So that's all of them, and I'm going to do the same thing, define impervious. Oops. And then I can select my previous selection, and I'm going to set this to lots with a 50% coverage, which that will just be from your PUD or from your city regulation. So now that I've defined my impervious cover, I'm going to define a basin. So I'll just draw one along these lots here. And close it with C. And then I can type define basins. And that's going to create a basin object with a tag on it, which correlates to the data that we have in our property set. So I'm going to call this one A01 for just how a typical basin of a storm network would be named. And you'll see that its area correlates to the size of it. So it is dynamic. And then for it to get the intersections between that impervious cover that we just defined, I'm just going to say update basins, in which it calculated a flow, it got my acreage of impervious cover, and then within the property set, it tells me how much lot cover, how much road cover, the total impervious percent, which you can add or edit your label to show that if you want it to. And just to confirm, we'll measure it all out. We see that our road coverage, whoops, I went a little too far there. Our road coverage, I have this area as 2,952, and let's see what we got here. We got 2,953. Let's see what our rounded error was. So yeah, 0.69. So we got our impervious cover for our roads correct. And now if we want to see our lots were properly initialized, we can quickly just measure that out. And remember, we defined our lots to be 50%, so it'll be half of this area that I'm measuring right now. So I have 19,425. I'll divide that by 2. We have 9712.8, so 9713. And then within our basin, we have 9713. So our impervious cover checks out, and we, in addition to impervious cover, to create a composite C value, we also have a time of concentration that needs to be calculated too. So I'm just going to turn on my surfaces. And I am going to draw a time of concentration line along this lot line. Let's say our inlet's right there. And I'm going to define TCs. So that just made it a TC line and made it dashed in red. If you notice, the basin turned to green when I calculated it from red, and the time of concentration line will do something similar. And we have a TC of 0 minutes right now. Within our time of concentration, we need to name it the same as our basin. It already has a decent preset sheet length and concrete for what I'm going to use right now. And then we have a primary surface, which I'll say is proposed, and a secondary surface, which I'll say is existing. And basically, it's going to try to pull from that primary surface first, and then if that's not available, it'll go to the existing surface. And this makes sense for situations where you're going off of the existing cover and tying into proposed. So I have that set up, and I have these which are correlating to a ground cover value, a Manning's N value that I have specified in my settings. So within the settings, we can go RRM settings, and it'll show us our storm frequencies, our IDF values, our pavement C value that we're calculating with, which it can all be edited, the grass C value for the various storms. And then within our time of concentrations, we can set a minimum time of concentration. We have all our default values here. And then we can choose the calculation that we want it to make for each set flow segment. So this is the city of Georgetown's standard, so that's what I'm keeping it at. And then we also have these N values that correlate to what we have chosen within our time of concentration line. So I have that all set how I want it, and I'm just going to say update TCs. Let's see what that did. It has a time of 0.88 seconds. I think I did a little too much. Oh, sorry, my sheet type should be veg 100. My bad. I'm going to update time, so it's not even that bad of an error. I'll regen real quick, and we have a 7.22 minute time of concentration. So now that I have this time of concentration defined, and it has the same name, I'm gonna update my basin again. And you see that changed our flow a little bit, and it correlated that time of concentration with our basin. So imagine you have a bunch of these, you can update them all at the same time. Same with times of concentrations, and if you correlate them to your inlet names, it'll export to storm sewers with all this data filled in for you. If you noticed, we also have a downstream inlet, so you don't need to do anything in storm sewers except run it and size your system after you've done this for each of your inlets. And again, it can be done all at the same time. So what this program is going to do for you is save you money based on the time it takes to do impervious cover calculations or design a storm system. It seriously has cut off months of time calculating versus Excel, and it'll make it easier for you to train people to learn how to do storm, because it's no longer tedious spreadsheets. It's no longer typing things in, looking at one screen, going to another. It's gonna do that for you, and I'll show you more in the next few videos. Thanks for listening.